Quinn Profiles. As an editor for Andy Warhol's Interview, the Los Angeles Herald-Examiner, LA Style, and Detour magazines, Joan covered the social set, the Hollywood hotshots, the international art scene, the mysteries of food, the excitement of travel, and the fabulous world of fashion. Joan continues to find creative people on the cutting edge who make things happen. Here's Joan Quinn.
Hi, I'm Joan Quinn, and welcome to the Joan Quinn Profiles. We're here on location at the Duke and Duke Gallery in West Hollywood, and my friend Peter Schlesinger's sculptures are on the set today. Waiting to be profiled are playwright David Gow and entrepreneur photographer Joyce Yung. Canadian playwright, screenwriter, and character actor David Gow studied performance and theater at Concordia University in Montreal and earned a Master of Fine Arts from York University in Toronto, two great cities. He's acted in a long list of films, and he's been on TV and the stage. In addition to his Cherry Docs, which is one of the most internationally produced plays since 1998, he's written Bee's Knees, The Friedman Family Fortune, and Flight of Peter Pumpkin Eater. David, you've been following this Cherry Docs all around the world. It's played everywhere.
Yeah.
San Francisco, St. Paul, even in Boston at my friend Charles Mosesian's theater.
Oh yeah, beautiful theater. I saw that production, fantastic.
Wasn't it great, isn't it? In Watertown, of all places.
Oh yeah, just gorgeous in the old Armory complex
exactly.
there.
Yeah, I love it. So, and also in Germany.
Yes.
So tell us what the show is about.
Well, it's a story about a public defender who gets as a case a young skinhead who's on trial for murder. And he's a liberal Jewish lawyer, and he goes into the room and discovers this young kid who admits that he's killed someone. So it's really about, the whole thing is about a sentence hearing, because it's not a question whether the kid has done it or not. And at the end of the first scene with the lawyer, he says to the lawyer, in an ideal world, I'd like to see you eliminated. But he says it right to the lawyer, you know, and he says, but in this world, I need you more than anyone.
So he knows it. Is it a true story?
Well, I like to say good stories are true stories, you know, but it's not based on a particular story. It's inspired by a number of events which I observed over the years. And I lived in Canada, in Montreal and Toronto, and there was quite a good sized skinhead population or neo-Nazi population. I don't mean, you know, I'm not talking hundreds of thousands, but there's enough that there have been quite a few incidents over the years.
And were those documented, those
incidents?
Yeah.
You know, B'nai B'rith will document them, and you know, other organizations as well, Canadian Jewish Congress will document them. And interestingly, you know, in the years following 9/11, the number of sort of racially motivated crimes, events, etc., increased dramatically both in Canada and in the United States.
Oh, that is.
Although this was written before 9/11. And so one of the cases, the most brutal that I saw, was a gang of, you know, 3 or 4 young neo-Nazis beating a man almost to death as he's on his way to synagogue. The man was a survivor of the Holocaust, and he was only saved by a carload of guys that came along, jumped out and threw these guys off him. But you know, 3, 4 young men in their early 20s.
You saw it?
I didn't see that. No, but that was
one of the situations.
One of the situations that, you know, here's a man who's survived the Holocaust.
Right.
He's on his way to shul. He's attacked by a carload of young boys and is only saved by another carload of people that come along.
But that's the horrible part of it, is they follow somebody going to temple.
Sure, and you know, we don't think of that as being, you know, the situation in Canada or even in the States. But just recently, of course, we had this guy go into the, you know, into a temple, Sikh temple, and attack people. And you know, so it's unfortunate. But the play was written in 1998. It's unfortunate that the play is still topical.
I know, it's really, it is really interesting, because it's been all over the world for what, how many years?
Oh, it's now, we're 14 years, yeah. And one of the productions I'm most proud of, unfortunately I didn't see this one, was it was produced in Germany at Vaganten Bühne, which is Wandering Players, and it's downtown Berlin, one of the most important post-war theaters. So that was in rep in downtown Berlin from about 2000 till 2007. So, you know, a few times a month or every other month.
Oh, they do it in rep,
Yeah,
I see,
with,
yeah.
you know, very well-known actors, very well-known director and everything.
Well, that's a very hip city.
Yes.
And they're
yeah.
very understanding. And they're
Yeah,
they're
very
going
thoughtful.
overboard to
Sure.
be understanding.
Sure,
So that's a
yeah.
great place.
Yeah, and then in Poland as well, but right now we're at Theatricum Botanicum.
Yeah, tell me about that.
Will Gear Theatricum Botanicum.
Theatricum Botanicum,
Yeah.
up in Topanga Canyon. And who's in the cast?
Well, I have in the cast Alan Blumenfeld, who's a regular there. He's been with the company for many years. Well-known character actor also.
He's been on the show.
Yeah, and
We've had
he's
him on the
acted
show here.
in New York as well. And then I have Andrew Walker, and I have Mark Cecil as an understudy. So I have two guys for the skinhead and one guy for the lawyer.
So do you cast it yourself?
Well, I was present for casting. Yeah, my wife is directing this production, so.
Oh, so a woman is directing it.
Yes, yeah.
And has she directed it before?
No,
No,
not.
because I noticed on all the other productions it's been a man.
Well,
David Gow?
I have had.
Have you?
Yeah, I had two or three women over the years that I can recall just off the top of my head. A couple in Canada and a few in the States. Kate Warner in Atlanta, I think, or in Memphis, and anyway, yeah. But
And your wife's name?
Kaylo Gow.
She's Gow too.
Yeah, she also goes
So,
by Gow,
so
yeah.
do you think it makes a difference if a woman directs it or a man directs it?
Honestly, not really. I think it's a story that's accessible. I mean, I'm happy to see a woman direct it, but I also had once a young woman come up to me and she said, "Hey, I was in your play Cherry Docks," and I said, "Really? Where?" And she said, "Well, at school. But this girl and I," she said, "we're doing the scenes from it, and we liked it so much that we decided we were going to do all of them."
That's what I was just going to ask you.
And she was, you know, she was a really young woman and tough, right? And
Yeah.
she said, "I played the skinhead, and this other woman played the lawyer," and she said, "We just loved the hell out of it." So I thought, well, I would be real happy to see it done sometime with women playing the roles, because
But that's the thing. I was wondering what if you had a woman lawyer.
it would be
ever.
interesting. I've never had a female cast in a formal production. But what I love at Theatricum Botanicum is we're outdoors, we're in the oak grove, you know, I mean, we're in this oak cathedral, and the place is such a phenomenal resource as a theater and as a theater complex, you know.
It's very intimate.
Oh,
too.
it's so beautiful. We're in this small space. It's like 100, 120 seats, and you're just looking at these actors, you know, up against the oak trees, and it's fantastic.
How do you move it along? How do those actors move this story along?
Well, this production it moves along really quickly. In some productions, there's been audio-visual material in between scenes.
That's what I wondered.
And in this one, it's like a sort of bare bones. And so the you know, one scene finishes and the next one starts. It's one of the fastest productions I've ever seen. It's coming in under 90 minutes.
Do you know? Is there a stop so that you go from scene
There's
to scene?
some brief pauses, but
Yeah.
it just basically, you know, you get
Do the
some
lights-
moments to breathe and the
Yeah.
lights sort of go up and down. But, you know, it looks great in that setting, which is so majestic, the trees and everything, and then the complex is so neat. You know, you can go up there and take a lunch or whatever, or dinner, and sit amongst the trees at the, you know, the picnic tables, and the place is such a wonderful, unusual complex, you know, always in need of volunteers and support and donation and everything, but such a phenomenal resource for that community and for the Los Angeles area, because if you go up there to see a show, it's like you're way out in the mountains, in the woods, you know, and
it's been there
beautiful.
a long time.
Yeah, it's been there over 30
history.
years.
Yes,
yeah,
it has a wonderful
yeah.
history. Tell me what cherry docks means.
Sure, sure.
We talk about cherry docks, you know, and then
Yeah.
when you start thinking, what does it mean?
It's a slang term that
Oh, it
is like
is.
or at least so I thought, and it since has become such. When I used the term first, I was using it in the play, and he says, you know, the lawyer says, "So you're wearing a pair of cherry Doc Martens?" And the kid says, "Yeah, cherry Docs." And at a time, there was a boot that was 18 holes, you know, like up to the knee almost, that was associated very often with skinheads. And in particular, you know, if you saw white laces, it was associated with Nazi or, you know,
so they had
white
a special-
supremacist skinheads, yeah.
They had a special...
Yeah, and of course, the people that make them take pains to point out, quite rightly, that their shoes are not only worn by skinheads, you know, and it's true.
But they're not cherry color.
They are. They're about like that.
Oh,
In fact,
they're like-
just they're more red than that. That's like a burgundy,
Oh,
but they're
they
almost
are?
a red cherry color, like a cherry that
Oh,
you would eat.
They are.
Yeah, so cherry-colored Doc Marten boots, And so that's where the title comes from. And the film that I made, which is based on the stage play.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, in 2006,
Yeah.
then you made a film, and it was called Steel Toes.
Yes, yeah.
But why did they change?
Well, the change was essentially, when you're making films, you've got to make sure that there's nothing in your chain of title that could create any trouble for anybody,
Oh,
so
and that was
a theater
commercial?
piece is being seen by, tens of thousands, even hundreds of thousands. A film is going to be seen by millions, so you want to make sure that you're in a position where no one will find fault
With your Doc Martens?
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
we wore our Doc Martens all the time.
Right,
It was
exactly,
like
yeah,
really trendy
yeah,
at
sure,
one time.
sure, yeah. Well, and they are good shoes, Doc Marten shoes. So, but yeah, the film took on a different title, and also I guess because it was a film, and the film did very well. Was here in Los Angeles in, I think it was 2007, won at the Beverly Hills Film Festival.
And you had an award-winning cast in that.
Yes, I had David Strathairn in that.
He's fantastic.
Wonderful actor, and then Andrew Walker, who's also in my production up at Theatricum
Oh,
Botanicum.
he was in the film?
He was in the film, and this is his first time being in the stage play.
Oh, isn't that wonderful?
Yeah,
What
yeah.
a great...
He's a super guy to work with, and I really, I'm always happy to see people work again in my work like that.
Oh, that's so fabulous. Does
Yeah.
he see some of the same things going on?
Well, I mean, it's a different production,
yes,
but I mean,
does he feel the...
I think he enjoys revisiting the role. Actors love to revisit a role in years later. So, David, who did the first American production, which was 2000, did the film.
Oh, he did? David
Yes, he
Strathairn
did.
did?
Yeah, in Philadelphia at the Wilma Theater.
Oh.
And so then you've got,
That's
and then you've got Andrew, who did the film, doing a play now. And then I've got Alan Blumenfeld, who's such a wonderful character actor and just wonderful in this role, doing the stage play at Theatricum Botanicum. And hopefully I'll be lucky enough to have him in a future production elsewhere as well. So, you have a sort of company feeling where, like the people
I
that did
love
it in
it. It
Berlin,
is,
they do
yeah.
it for years and years. They come back to the role 7 years after they started it and see, well, how do I feel about this role?
It's like Cherry Doc's ensemble.
Well, yeah, and
ensemble.
there's quite a few actors in the
Yeah.
States that have the show ready to go.
One of the things in the play is the lawyer has to show forgiveness, or he has to show compassion, or he has to show something in order to defend this guy, right? And they say you called on the Jewish laws of forgiveness and all that. But that's not just a Jewish law, that's a Christian law as well.
Absolutely, absolutely. In fact, I think if anything in Christianity, the call to forgive people is probably more strongly emphasized. And then in Hinduism as well, as victim is a man who's a Hindu who says in a victim impact statement, he says, it's my great honor to forgive this man.
Oh, you have to think of it like that, right?
That's that's not the lawyer, that's the victim who says that. But I guess within Judaism, yes, you have the idea of more so than forgiveness is kind of atonement, really, right? But compassion's very big in Judaism, and in particular the idea of tikkun olam, which is to heal the world, to bring things back together, to try to bring a community together and bring people together.
They say that there's some really horrible, despicable lines to read.
Well, I don't know who's responsible for that, but I guess I am.
But how does an actor say those things? They're
They
like
have to-
so against your...
They got to get into it in a way where they try to understand the person and understand the belief set. And for all sorts of reasons, for all sorts of ideologies, we wreak violence on others. So my personal point of view, which is I don't think this is expressed at great length in the play, is that you can replace one ideology with another when you're hurting other people. And really, if you're hurting or killing other people, doesn't matter what the ideology is behind it.
that's why I
You're
say
just
it's-
excusing your action on the basis,
Right.
basically, of being better than someone else, right?
Right.
So in a sense, the play tries to get at the root of that. And the skinhead, who starts off, I won't say unrepentant, but he's not particularly apologetic, and he goes through a journey where he comes to see his own action in a much deeper way.
In a different light.
Yeah, and so then, and partly because he's in a room with a man who he should hate, who's the only man he ever sees.
Who's going to help save him?
Who's trying like
Or
hell
try
to save him, to help him. And so through that, he has a kind of transformative experience, which isn't easy. And there was after my play opened first in 1998, there was a young man who was a former skinhead who went on a tour of North America with B'nai B'rith speaking. So, it's a story that I've seen facets of in different places, different times.
Well, you have brought us so much to think about, and I think the audiences have so much. You say you can hear them laugh a little bit, then go dead silent.
Yes, yeah.
And then kind of like take a sigh of relief.
Yeah. One of the places I heard the most laughter for the production was in the former Warsaw Ghetto at a cinema that's inside, what was the ghetto. And there, I thought the film played as the biggest comedy it ever played. So there's these sort of laughing through a veil of tears in it,
Thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you so much for having me. Such a pleasure.
It was great. Yeah. And don't go away. We'll be right back with the Joan Quinn Profiles. Hi, I'm Joan Quinn, and welcome back to the Joan Quinn Profiles. We're here on location at Duke and Duke, the art gallery in West Hollywood. And I'm with photographer, producer, Joyce Yung. Her father was in the shipping business, so they were in Japan when she was born, stopped a while in England, back home to Hong Kong, and then after high school in Thailand, Joyce left for the States, where she earned an MA and a bachelor's at Cornell University. She worked in New York for a Fortune 100 company before going back to Hong Kong. She's the producer of the film Super Capitalist and a founder of Random Art Workshop. We have this artistic side of you, and we have this really, I guess, numbers side, you would call. How does that happen?
Yeah, I think, well, I've always been good with math and science, so it was kind of natural that for university I went into a more analytical field. So I did operation research, industrial engineering as a major, and I did my master's in it, and kind of natural to kind of follow that career path as well. So
and what do you do in that career path? I know what you do as a photographer and as an artist, but what do you do in that
I went into credit risk management for
what
a
is
retail
that?
bank. It's a lot of analysis. So you do a lot of statistical analysis, look for patterns within the data that we have. And it's for a credit card company, so it was looking at aggregates of consumer data. And being able to analyze risk and also opportunity. So we come up with a lot of risk mitigating strategies, but also marketing strategies to recommend to a marketing team in terms of who are the good people to go after or to...
Within your company? Within that company?
Within that company, yes. I used to work for American Express.
So you would look for people who were at risk in your company, but also... Good people.
Within the company, sorry, the clients of the company. So
that's what I meant, clients of the company.
So it's a credit card division, so it would have like either consumer cards, so for any consumer that has the regular blue card, gold card, et cetera, but also the small business division. So I kind of moved different groups or different product lines within risk management. And
were you artistic while you were still there at American Express? Did you work downtown at American Express?
I worked downtown.
Yeah, that's a huge building, isn't it?
Yes, it's a very nice building.
Very nice.
Yeah, it's very nice. I work downtown.
They have a great auditorium. I've gone to women's. They do women's issues, which are fantastic. It's really great. They sponsor wonderful things like that.
Yes.
But were you part of anything artistic there?
Not at the company, but I've always been interested in the arts or photography, like taking photos and all that. So that's definitely been a hobby quite early on. But then I started developing it more later on, and then when I moved to Hong Kong, that's when I really got into taking some classes, doing some freelance jobs relating to photography.
And when you got back to Hong Kong, you had given up your finance kind of position, right?
Not yet. Actually, I moved with the company to Hong Kong.
Oh, you did?
So they have a position in Hong Kong that I head up the risk management group in Hong Kong at the time. So it was a great opportunity for me to go back to Asia. My family's still in Asia. They were still in Thailand at the time, but they go back and forth Thailand and Hong Kong. Yeah, so it was a great opportunity to go back and as an adult and get to live in Hong Kong and yeah, get a feel of that. So it was a great
When
opportunity.
when you were talking about taking workshops and things, were there a lot of workshops for you to do?
Not
to
as
take?
many in Hong Kong.
No,
So I
that's
did
what-
some photography classes, which they have some standard programs through universities. So the continuing education is definitely there, but a little less of the leisurely workshops, which is kind of how I thought of doing that with my with Derek Ting. We partnered and started Random Art Workshop.
So Random Art Workshop, what do they do?
Well, it's an outlet to provide creative. Well, it's a creative outlet to provide appreciation for everyday arts.
So it's a
And
big company providing a lot of,
It's well, we
thing.
started 3 years ago. So started.
but I mean,
yeah.
it encompasses a lot.
Yes, it does.
It does. So do you give photography workshops?
Yeah, we
Oh,
do.
you
So
do.
different types of photography workshop, and that's quite natural extension from my photography work. So I teach, and I have other instructors as well.
So before you did that, when you came back to Hong Kong, did you know how to use a camera?
I knew how to use one.
You
maybe
have a
not
camera
the
with
super
you.
sophisticated. Yes, I do.
This is
I always travel around with this.
a big, heavy camera. But
It
were
is.
you using this at the time?
This one is fairly new, so it's a 5D Mark III. I'm doing a Canon commercial now. No.
Yeah, you can do that. You can take my picture. We'll use it.
That's good. So yeah, this is the latest one. Like, I just acquired this 2-3 months ago. But it's always been Canon for me, some reason, and yeah, just different versions of it.
And so what were you teaching when you taught photography? I know you have several suggestions just as a beginning photographer.
Sure. Well, I teach 2 main classes. So one is a completely beginning session, talk about basics of photography, go into how to use a camera, how to use the different functions, and how to use the manual functions. So that's kind of a 3-hour session. Then the second session goes slightly more into lighting, or how to look at lighting and when to use that to your advantage.
And you have like 2 or 3 things that you tell
Oh, right.
new people, like to keep things simple. And
Yeah, I think, yeah, definitely keep it simple, because I think initially it's just so exciting that you want to take everything, and maybe you get a new lens, and
You mean
know.
if you're on like working or doing a fashion shoot or doing a
I
wedding
think that's
or something?
yeah, that's more in general. Let's keep it simple. But
I
I
see.
mean, it works for obviously a working photographer as well. Before I think general hobbyists, you know, you start off wanting to take this detail, but you and like a person in it, or maybe a group photo. So it's kind of tough to achieve everything. So just keep it simple in terms of isolating what are the subjects you want to focus on. Then trying different angles. That's always
Oh, that was interesting.
good.
Yeah, you said take a picture from like knee high.
Knee high, yeah, or the height of a subject. So if it's a child,
Yeah.
a pet, it's always better to get it at that level.
That's interesting.
Yeah, so it's a more familiar perspective with the child. So when you look in the photo, it's interesting because you're at that eye level of the
level.
child or the pet. A lot of people like to take dogs and cats. So,
Right.
so yeah, so that's kind of a good way to do it. But other angles too, just not traditional. If you shoot up, like I think where I live in Hong Kong or New York before, it's always great to have skyscrapers.
You have them all over,
Yeah.
don't you?
So there's a lot. I mean, I feel like I don't look up enough sometimes. So I think that's also a good way to just remind myself to look around, look up, using a different angle in that perspective.
Were you? You were a producer of Super Capitalist, this new film that's out,
Yeah.
which is fantastic, that Derek Ting wrote
Yes.
and acted in.
Yeah.
Were you the official on-site photographer besides being a producer?
Yes, I was.
You
I
were,
was,
so yeah. Did you have fun?
A lot of fun. I love, I love taking photos and still photography. This is my first feature film producing with Derek Ting. And it was just great to be able to be the still photographer, take that all in. And
Tell us the story, Super Capitalist.
it's about a maverick hedge fund trader that started in New York, very smart, and immediately got identified to move to Hong Kong to head up some trades in Hong Kong. And it's about him and his company kind of coming across a family conglomerate and how it kind of spins out of control with certain deals. So it's about taking risk, taking the right risk, choices in life, and what's important to a person.
Did it come from Derek Ting's own situations? Did he know those kind of things were going on?
I think some of it's inspired in terms of when taking the experience moving from New York to Hong Kong.
That part, yeah.
We definitely have. And also, it's a big finance industry, a town in Hong Kong, so a lot of friends are in investment banking, some type of banking,
Yeah.
hedge funds.
They have stories.
Yes, and they have lots of stories. And he also worked with a financial advisor at the time, Young Cho. He initially helped with some of the financial writing, just to make sure it's correct story
I see.
as well.
The dialogue on
the dialogue
I
on
see.
the financial aspect. So, yeah, a lot of that's taken.
Were you on location?
Yes.
And where were the locations?
Yep. We shot 6 days in New York,
Oh, you
20
did.
days in HongOng, and 2 days in Macau, and I was on location all of the days.
And you have so many friends. Were there locations at any of your friends' places, or?
Yeah, we have.
Because what kind of budget
sure.
did you have?
Yeah, the budget is very modest, $500,000, under $500,000 actually.
Which is a really big movie for that kind of money.
Yes, it was a very ambitious task.
But it looks like a very expensive movie.
Thank you. Yes, that's. I mean, definitely, we had a great team together, and we have. So each of the crew, we definitely all leverage our personal relationship and connections
That's
and
what I
work with
thought.
different people.
You had some wonderful old-time actors.
Yeah.
Were they friends, or did you cast them just because they were in perfect places?
We cast them. So we have two veteran Hong Kong actors, Kenneth Tsang and Richard Ng. Initially, Simon Yin, the director, has worked with or has been in contact with Richard Ng. So that's kind of how it started in terms of coming, into
Casting.
yeah.
That's what I was going to ask you about the director. How familiar was he with that kind of a world? Or did it
in
matter?
terms of that kind of story, really?
Finance, yeah.
I mean, he also experienced moving. He's an American-born Chinese, and moving from U.S. to Hong Kong. So that part is realistic as well, and he knows a lot of friends that are in the banking and hedge funds. So that's also definitely you see a lot of the stories, the partying, kind of that aspect.
Yeah.
So that's also fairly realistic.
Of all the three things, raw, photography, and filmmaking, and finance, I guess we have to add,
Yeah.
where do you see yourself going?
I think they're all tied together because the finance and analytical background definitely helped the business aspect, that's what helped the producing aspect. And I think I love creating something, a new project, and seeing end to end. So that works for the art workshop, works for photography, it relates to film, and we definitely have a few more film projects in mind.
Oh, do we? I was
yes.
going to ask you, what do we have in the future? Same kind of finance thing?
We have
or
a
was
few
more-
ideas, a few different genres. So we definitely have a few different genre and script and at different budget levels. So we're still in the development phase, and maybe we can talk about it more next time.
Thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you.
And
Joan.
thank you for watching the Joan Quinn Profiles. Keep writing to JAQUINN1@AOL.com or 777 South Figueroa, 44th floor, Los Angeles 90017. We'll see you next time on the Joan Quinn Profiles.